Hi everybody, thanks for stopping by. My name's FM19, and today I'm going to start to try and answer the question, at what point does Football Manager become Spreadsheet Manager? And I say that only kind of sort of in jest. The background you see here is my squad view. This is my squad from the third season at SC Bastia. Just a little bit of background. Bastia was a League One team who were relegated down to League Two. There was a bunch of financial irregularities. In the course of one summer, they were relegated all the way down to the 5th division of French football. They essentially disbanded their reserve team and took the place of their reserve team in the French 5th division. And I'm trying to take them back to the top of League One. FM19 was my first experience with Football Manager. And the only thing I ever took control of was contract negotiations, and that was about it. I did some scouting, but for the most part, when it comes to scouting, I'm interested in ability and potential ability and the score. I tend to trust my scouts more than anything else. This is the first save where I wanted to take a bit more control, especially when it comes to things like scouting and training. And so one of the things I wanted to do was to track my players' improvement. Now, SI does some things really well. We are going to go to Sofiane Boris-Bell here. He is my young striker. The data they present here is very nice. And a lot of different screens will give you a lot of different options, but for the most part, you're always going to get the same thing. Their current ability, their potential ability, how good they are with the left foot and right foot, their technical, mental, and physical attributes, and things like that, a biography, the analysis, graph chart, spider chart, whatever you want to call that, their positions, so on and so forth, their current season stats. So if you look up here in their attributes, you'll see these arrows. Green if they're good, red if they're bad, how high they're going up or down shows their improvement. Now, Boris-Bell has been a member of my squad since the beginning, and this, I want to say, is from the end of the third season, or close to the end of the third season. So the question becomes, well, how much has he improved? For that, you have to go to development and attribute changes. And then you get this. And this, frankly, isn't bad, but at the same time, it's not good. At this point, all it is showing here are the skills that are relevant to his position, or what I am training him on. If I was to try and turn all of these on, it would look like this. And this is kind of a jumbled mess. And I can tell just from the previous screen to this screen, there's certain things it's not showing. As an example, there was one line that started here, went all the way down before it started coming back up again. And yeah, well, you can hover over the lines and see, like, okay, his determination is an 11 here, and when I first got him, his determination was an 8. So that's obviously gone up. The problem is, with all these lines of data and sharing the same colors and stuff like that, you're not getting a full representation. So the question is, how do you get that? Well, SI does make this a little easy. It also makes some of it quite hard. But with a little bit of knowledge in Excel, or Calc, which is what I use, you can set up some sheets to give you a better visual idea of what is happening. Now, I'm a geographer by trade. I work with a lot of data. I'm an ArcGIS analyst, and my whole job consists of putting data into a format that's visually understandable and visually easy to read. So when I started looking a bit more in depth as to what I wanted to do in terms of seeing how my players were improving on, say, a 3 to 4 month cycle, and how much they improved from, say, June of 18 to June of 19, I started looking at how to do that in a spreadsheet. The first thing you're going to have to do is build a custom view of all the players' attributes. And as you see here, looking across the top, the attributes here match the order in which they appear here. This is for two things. One, it's easier to follow it this way. And two, it means in the future, should you accidentally grab a column and move it, like I've done in the past, and you get some really funky results on the spreadsheet, you know what's going on. You know that crossing follows cornering. You know that passing follows marking. You know that positioning follows off the ball. I throw on age. There's other things you can throw on as well. But what you're going to want to do is, once you have this shot set up and you want to take a screenshot of it, you go up here to the FM button, and you go to print screen, and you are going to print this as a web page. Click OK, and then a couple of general hints here. If you go and you click recent, it is going to take you to the most recent folders the game has had open. Now, I've set up a training folder. I just click on that, and as you can see, these are all the screenshots I've exported. At one point in time, I toyed with the idea of trying to export the team out by squads, first team, reserve team, and under 19s, and it just got to be too much work, especially with a large squad like I had. I know some skins have a reserve marker or an under 19 marker. The skin I'm using right now doesn't. I just tend to sort by age. So I exported the squad at the beginning of June when I first took over the club. What you're going to want to do then is navigate to the folder where you have those saved, and you're going to click on the HTML file. And the one I'm looking for is June of 18. I possibly may have deleted it. This is not the first time I've done this. But you're going to click on the file. It's going to open. And because I am working in France, Google always pops up with a, hey, do you want to translate this? Because it thinks that everything's in French. And what you're going to get is a basic HTML printout of your view. Then what you're going to do is you're going to select all the players, right-click and copy. So what you're going to want to do is click on the first empty cell. You'll notice up top here that I have the name and then all the columns filled out. You're going to right-click on that first empty cell, go to Paste Special, and Unformatted Text. Now this is important, especially with some of the stuff that we're going to copy and paste in later on. This window will pop up. Everything should be tab delimited. You shouldn't have to change anything on either Excel or Calc. I use Calc because, frankly, I don't want to pay for Microsoft Office. One of the things I like about it is it does about 95% of the things Excel does, and it's got a setting on it where you can go in and say, hey, I want to use the Excel format for formulas, and set that up. You click OK. Their names are going to populate, and then all these colors pop up. And that is conditional formatting. Now, what is conditional formatting? Conditional formatting is take a cell, compare it to another cell, and I've got both hands off the screen here, so you're going to take a cell, compare it to another cell, and depending on the value of the cells, you're going to do something to it. Now, the way I have it set up is it's going to compare the player off another tab, compare his attributes, and if his attribute is one better, or if his attribute is one better, it's going to turn it light green. If it's two better, it's going to turn it dark green. If it's one less, it's going to turn it yellow. And if it's two less, it's going to turn it red. Now, this is an awful lot of red, but I believe this blank conditional is set up with a slightly different formula than I use. So I'm going to go back to the beginning here. This was my squad in June of 18. This was my squad in October of 18. After 4.5 months of training, this was the improvement I saw. Now, as you see, a player like Shardani Masudi had a lot of improvement in a lot of areas. A guy like Matthew Graziani, well, he fell in a lot of areas. And then, Sofian Boris Belt, for whatever reason, fell off too in stamina. I think that's because he picked up an injury or something like that. But the question is, how do we get this? Again, it's a conditional formula. And that is going to be this. Now, I have 4 formulas that this page looks at as part of the conditional format. And it's a little complicated, and I'm going to explain it poorly, and I apologize for that, but this is essentially what is happening. This formula says you're going to compare the value of C3, and then if it's less than a VLOOKUP, which is just a lookup, of the name over here in A3 on the previous tab, June of 18, in this particular data array, and my data array is A2 to AL99 because, frankly, 99 players is, I think, the most you can carry on the roster. Then column says, once you find that match, go back to the columns and start bringing them in -1. Now, why -1? Because you're already looking for less than, but you don't want just less than. You want less than -1, and this also includes -1 or worse. So if it's -2 or -3 or -4, it will be formatted red. You switch that to a greater than, a +1, it'll be looking for a number greater than C3 plus 1, or plus 2, or plus 3 in this case, and it will turn it dark green. The third condition is less than 0. So it's just going to look for a number 1 less than what's in C3, and it's going to turn it yellow. And the last one is it's going to look for a number that is 1 more and turn it a light green. Now, conditional formulas like this are very hierarchical. You have to set them in the proper order. If, as an example, I had this one up top, everything that was plus 1 or better would be light green, because the conditional formula is going to apply these in order. It's going to look at the numbers and say, okay, here's the minus 1s or worse. It's going to look at the plus 2s or worse. Then it's going to look at the plus 1s and minus, or the minus 1s and the plus 1s. So, as an example here, Christoph Vincent was my guinea pig on this. And I went back and I reset all of his stats in June to 3s, at least in the first few categories. And as you can see here, 1 is 2 less than 3, so that's red. 2 is 1 less, so it's yellow. 4 is 1 more, so it's light green. 5 is 2 more, so it's dark green. 6 is 3 more, because that's more than the plus 2. It is dark green. If, as an example, you know what, we're going to go back here and fool around with this real quick. If I make his heading a 10 here, and then we go back over here, you will see that is now a minus 3. Because if I go 9, it'll turn yellow. If I go 8, it'll turn red. If I go all the way down to 1, it's still going to stay red. If for whatever reason I go up to 20, it's going to go to dark green. Now, the quick eye amongst you will notice the formula does not care where the name is. All it's looking for is a match of the name. It's going to go through and try and find all the names over here on the left side. As an example, if I was to go over here and go sort descending, it's going to swap all the names around. All the data is going to go with the names, but the format is going to stay, and it's going to be applied. What the formula is doing is it's looking for the name wherever it finds it, and then once it finds it, it's going to start comparing the columns. So your name could be anywhere from 2 to 99. As long as the name in the tab you're in is in the tab you're comparing it to, it's going to find it and compare the data. I just want to check something out here real quick. Johan Bakango. Now, even though, I just wanted to point this out, even though the conditional formula has C3 as the first cell being looked at, you'll notice I changed Johan Bakango just now, and it went in and found the formula. I think it has something to do with how the data itself is read. If you try putting in C2, the formula doesn't work. It's got to be something going on under the hood that I just don't understand, and unfortunately my 8-year-old is at a friend's house, so he can't explain it to me. But as you can see, let me close this out here. Over here on this screen here, Johan Bakango is right here at 12. I change that to 20. If I change that to 20, and I change this to 20, when I go to October, all 3 of those are red, even though he's in the C2 position and the formula says look at C3. I think it has to do with how the array of data is, because it's looking from A2 to AL99. So, what happens next is, when you go to, say, January, you're essentially bringing the tab in. I have a blank copy. You bring the data in, then what you have to do is go into your conditional formula and just edit the tab that you're referring to. So in this case, like if you were to copy the June tab over, this would say June. You just want to change that to October of 18. The only thing you have to pay attention to is you have to make sure it's spelled the same way in the tab. And you have to make sure that you're not adding any extra characters or deleting any extra characters. So I take a screenshot every 3 or so months to track my players that way. One of the things I find that it helps me is, if I need to emphasize a particular area in training, if I notice that a lot of players are falling off in this similar area, like their dribbling is all falling down by -1 in 3 months, or if their acceleration and agility or something like that are falling down. And then what I do is I also do an end of year review. I take a screenshot of the attributes in June of, like I did here, in June of 19. That's what these are. And I compare them to June of 18. I just go up into the conditional formatting here and change my reference to June of 18. Now I have these guys sorted by age now, and as you can see, I'm going to go right here, Louis Balbino. Everybody above Louis Balbino is on my youth squad, and as you can see, my youth players all improved by a good amount, some of them by a goodly amount. And then down here, ignore the Johan Bakango and the Christoph Vincent results, you'll see a guy like Steve Hagay, yeah, he improved, but he's 38 years old, and his physicals really fell off. As a matter of fact, everybody from Ludovic Genest on down were on, well, what I consider the wrong side of 30, and their physicals all dropped off. Now, while this is one really good way of seeing the changes, I also wanted another way to see the changes as well. And for that, you need attribute analysis. And that is this tab right here. Now, I have to thank the guys at the Mr. Excel forum for helping me out with this. And there's also a couple posts on the SI community forums where they talk about what attributes go into deciding what the various skills are. So as you can see here, I've got the name, a tab, and then these are all the skills. They're still in the same order. And what you do is you type in or you paste the name of the player you want. In this case, we're going to look at Sophie and Boris Bell. And then what tab we want, and we're going to type in June of 18 here. And then once I tab over, this is all going to fill out. And you'll notice his chart gets filled out as well. You'll also notice the stuff at the top doesn't get filled out. That's because I screwed this up the first time I built it, and I couldn't figure out how to get the first comparison number and the second comparison number to both show up even though you only have one. The solution is you build a second chart, and then that way that populates. Now, Excel and Calc are a little different in how these charts are made, but they're pretty straightforward and go, click A, click B, click C, choose this for your data, choose that for your data, and so on and so forth. You'll notice the lines are broken down in segments of 4. There's possibly a way to add more lines and break down the segments. You do that by, that's behind the scenes stuff. I don't need to go into that. But say we want to compare what Sophie and Boris Bell looked like in June of 19. So we paste his name in. We type in the tab we're referencing. And as you see now, at least from over here with the legend, the blue numbers is how much he has improved. Now, for a little bit more, I've also got a line underneath that shows the plus ones, minus ones, and so on and so forth. Part of me wants to go back in and conditional format this as well. I just haven't done that yet. But as an example, I am all the way to June 2021 in my save. So if I go here and I type in June of 2021 and I hit enter, that's going to populate, and you're going to see that is the improvement that he has made. And then down here you can also see, the plus ones, the minus ones, the plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, minus 1, so on and so forth. It's possible down in the future to go down below here and build in a bar graph to show things like that as well. That could be something to do in the future. Now, where data like this and displaying it graphically will also come in handily, and I haven't gotten to this part yet. This is a view that I literally just threw together about 5 minutes ago. It is literally every column of data that you can add into a view. And there is a ton of columns here. There is a ton of data here. But say, like as an example, you're looking at your defenders and you want to see how well they do in the air. You look at their headers. You look at their headers every 90 minutes. You look at their total numbers of headers. You've got goals allowed per 90 minutes here. Goals allowed per 90 minutes there. What's the difference between the two? Goals per 90 minutes there. Goals allowed. Goals conceded. This is Florian Adriani. He's my keeper, so that's why that's populated. Let's see if we can't find some other stats over here as well. Passes completed per 90 minutes. Passes completed overall. pass attempts per 90 minutes, passes attempt overall. And then, I've got like all their attributes and that is there as well. So where this can come in handy is especially in, say, scouting. Now, this is horribly presented because I haven't done any editing on that view. But say, for an example, you're looking at a defensive center back. These are the defensive center backs I have scouted. You have some that are pretty similar in terms of their score, but you're looking for like a guy who's really good in the air. Or better yet, because I can find this more easily, you're looking for a defensive center back who's also a really good passer and a really good header. So you could export these guys out using the FM print screen, print them out as HTML, export them out once you have your view made, bring them into your spreadsheet, and then have another tab set up and bring in the data this way, and then create a bar graph saying, okay, I'm looking for guys who do this. I'm looking for guys, I'm looking for a defensive center back who's a good passer and a good header. And because you have all this data available to you, it's there. Now, the thing is, you've got a ton of columns here, and this is all the attribute data that is available. And just as an example, can we count the number of columns here? I pasted that into a blank tab. You have to look kind of close to see it, and I can't go down too far or my taskbar is going to pop up. That's 312 columns worth of data. So, depending on what you're looking for, you can customize it to your heart's content. Now, the nice thing is, if you go to the Steam Workshop, there's a lot of views that other creators have uploaded that have a lot of what you're looking for. You import those in, you add what you want to, you take out what you don't want, you save it, and then anytime you want data exported, you print it out, you bring it in, you do a little behind the scenes work, and you have the data you're looking for in a more visual way. And that's kind of the thing with spreadsheets like this. This right now was really easy to show. It took a couple hours to put together, but at the end of the day, it is well worth it. At least I think it is. It's helped me out immeasurably in terms of tracking my players from year to year and every 3 months or so. As I said, like this is August of 20, this is January of 21. So I can tell that from August of 20 to January 21, my training, especially on my youth squad, was very, very effective. And for the most part, on a lot of my first team regulars, it was also very effective. But then I can also look and see, okay, hey, Makamere fell off. Why is that? Well, he's 31 years old. He's an offensive center back. Plus, he got injured in that time as well. So that is a good explanation for why that's falling. And for me, at least, this is a much better way of interpreting what is happening and how a player is progressing, as opposed to this. I mean, this is nice, and in some ways it's useful. You can see how they're improving, and if you're at least good enough to track the numbers down here at the bottom, that's great. If you were to print this screen and export it, I believe this stuff down here would print. The graphical stuff won't. So as an example, you can go to this form here. This is the form under reports, and if you were to print this as a web page, you'll notice you get all what the game considers key stats for the games that he's participated in. But you'll also notice it just printed out this stuff here. It didn't print out any of the graphical stuff up top, but it did print out his statistics down here at the bottom, which can be useful as well. So, building a view is, well, it's not easy, but it's fairly easy. You go back to a view you already have, customize it, customize current view. Over here, you have your available options to bring in. You go over here to show fields in this order. It's a little clunky, but it is what it is sometimes. I find sometimes it's easier to add and then remove stuff and save it that way. And then once you have it built, export it out, save it, and then you can bring it back in when you need to. I actually have to go through and clean mine up a little bit. And that is pretty much it, at least for attributes. Those of you who are pretty eagle-eyed on the spreadsheet will notice that I've got a few other columns down here: attribute analysis, starting budgets, budgetary stuff, finance tracking, wage distribution, scheduling. The scheduling one is a lot of behind the scenes work, but once you do it the first couple of times, it's fairly easy to clean up. That's going to be in a future video, in a future post. So I'm going to end this here. Hopefully this has been useful to you. I will put the VLOOKUP formulas down in the description below if you want to try some of your own Excel formatting, at least on this part here. If you want some help with the attribute analysis, what I could probably do is just put together a short blank sheet that has, the first few tabs in the attribute analysis with everything built in behind the scenes that you can add to it or take out of it as much as you want. I wish I could say some of this stuff was original work. It's not. I did crib ideas from other content creators. Unfortunately, I don't remember your names. If you see something on here that you did and you want credit for it, let me know. I am more than happy to attribute that to you. I don't know how many more videos are going to be part of this series. I'll talk about the budget one next. Probably that'll feed in with wages as well. I'll do one on the schedule because I think that's really kind of helped me out quite a bit. And going forward, I'm thinking about we just recently promoted to League 2. We had back promotions. So I'm doing a lot more in terms of scouting. I'm also doing a lot more in terms of comparing players to see who I want to kind of fit my squad DNA, what I want from a player to fit my team. So there'll probably be more tabs in terms of scouting and things like that. At the end of the day, the only thing you are limited to is the amount of data you export out. And this is actually a really good view. I wish I'd pulled this up earlier. So this guy's got his view broken down into game win ratio, total team goals per 90 minutes, total goals conceded per 90 minutes. It's a matter of exporting this data out, putting it into a spreadsheet, and then once it's on the spreadsheet, manipulating the data there to get the results you want to see. And I'll be the first to admit, I am not an expert when it comes to Excel or Calc. I use it quite a bit in my job, but there are guys in my office who will put together macros and VBA scripts and whatnot that will do what I did with conditional formatting in scripts and that. And they're brilliant guys. And frankly, they don't tell anybody they're good at Excel because once they do that, they're inundated with people with requests. And that's why I haven't asked any of them to help me out with this. I wanted to do this on my own. I think so far I've gotten some pretty good results. So I'm going to call that video here. Right now it's 45 minutes, and that's long before I did any editing. I'm fairly sure there's at least 15 minutes of dead space as I was creating stuff. I do have a web page. The link's going to be down below. I have an article there about the first part with squad comparisons. The VLOOKUP formulas are there as well. I will put those in the bottom of this. Further posts and videos explaining what I'm doing and how I'm doing it will go there. Keep an eye out for that. If you liked what you've seen and heard, if you find it useful, please let me know down below. If you didn't like what you saw or heard, or you saw a place I made a mistake, or a place I can make an improvement, let me know down below. And that's pretty much it. My name's FM19. I thank you very much for watching.